Everybody, what's up? Circus here, coming at you with This Week in Rogue Decks. Joining me is Ryi, as always. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. How are you, man?
Not too bad. So what we do every week is, I collect data from the power rankings, and I'm very thorough. I like to see every deck that was played in the past week, and I catalog them all. And a lot of times there's like 50 or 60 different decks being played. So I always look way down at the bottom of the list to see the spice that people bring into the tournament scene, and then we're going to talk about them. They're the rogue decks. They're the ones that don't get played a lot, but they deserve a little bit of attention.
There you go.
All right, so the first deck we're going to be talking about this week, they call it Aliens. I just call it an invoked variant. I don't know. What are we looking at here, Ryi?
So this is Alien Invoke. More emphasis on the invoke rather than the alien.
Right.
The main combo that you're doing here is with your quick play alien card, the A-cell recombination. You can send an alien to the grave. So you do that. You summon Alistair. There you go. Any invoked monster that you want. You want Purgatrio on demand. You want Casitas on demand. So that's pretty much the main go-to with this deck. It does have some finishing power with of course, the one Overlord rather. He can just take tokens anywhere from the field and summon himself at that point.
Right.
But the main strategy with this deck is heavy back row into whatever invoke monster you want to win you the game. That's kind of the main strategy.
I guess they're doing it because they can, but at the same time, why wouldn't you just play Element Sabers?
The Element Sabers right now is definitely better. Obviously, the one advantage of this deck is Cosmic Cyclone over the E-Saber. You can't play Cosmic in E-Saber. So this actually is one of the better decks to turbo an invoke monster out of. When you look at all the other invoke decks, for example, Barry and Magician Girl invoke, you can't really choose what invoke you get. You kind of have to hope to draw into it or get it milled or something like that to actually get it going. Where this one, you literally just whatever you want, send it to the grave. There you go. That's your invoke monster.
But isn't part of the whole Element Saber thing is you can flip stuff down into face down, and then they're just kind of stuck, and then you can bring out your Purgatrio and start attacking into them and doing that.
Yeah, and that's the overall power is definitely better for E-Saber.
Okay.
Literally the only advantage is you get Cosmic Cyclone. So you have to value Cosmic very highly, which this current meta, especially with like Lightsworn stuff running around, Witchcraft or Lightsworn stuff like that, you don't need Cosmic Cyclone. Not really ideally the best off meta deck to play, but hey, it's there.
Yep. All right, moving on to the next one. This is a deck that was literally tier 0 for a very long time. People love to hate, and for some reason it's back, and I don't know if it's back, but someone played it this past week for hire. What's up with that?
So for hire is interesting because of Dyna mostly. He is some of the best graveyard control. When he summons, you just banish from the graveyard, which is really good in this meta, like we talked about in an earlier video. Anti-graveyard strategies, Necro Valley, etc., are very strong right now. So that's where a lot of power comes from for hire. And then obviously Wiz can still negate, even though the cost, losing a card these days is pretty tough, but it is what it is. You gotta do what you gotta do out here. And obviously you see it backed up with a lot of back row, Ballista, Fiendish Chain, both really good in this archetype. The archetype itself, though, obviously the monsters are still really, really tiny, so they have trouble swinging over things that are indestructible. Can have a hard time with Casitas as well, this build specifically, so maybe they side some sort of floodgate or something to kind of avoid that. But that's pretty much where they are seeing success. So it was centered around the Dyna play, kind of banishing from the grave, making your opponent unable to, they set up their graveyard, then they can't do anything, and they lose, essentially.
Well, I think the big thing, the reason for hire did so great back in the day, there wasn't as much disruption.
Right.
Because they want to bring out 3 monsters on one turn. They probably have a little bit harder time doing that, because you can see in this deck they're even running Fiendish Chain.
So all Fiendish Chain's everywhere. If your deck sucks, put Fiendish Chain in it. We are in a monster negation centric meta, so that's gonna happen. It doesn't help too that all of the for hire summon effects are all ignition effects, so you have to summon them, then activate them.
Right.
So there's a lot of disruption when it comes down to it. Obviously, if you go first and you're able to set up a really good board, you can do a lot of things. But yeah, I mean the main power, like before, it used to be the whiz. You get the whiz out there. Most
Oh
decks only
yeah.
had one effect anyway, so you negate
Yep.
that, you're good. But these days, getting the Dyna kind of in the mid to late game, and you just banish the stuff from the graveyard is really really strong. So
And
that's
thank
where those
God
things
there's no such thing as Dino Lock anymore.
are.
Do you remember that?
Dynalock was pretty. It would actually be interesting to see how Dynalock would work in today's meta because there's so much destruction,
Right.
non-targeting destruction, that I don't think it'd actually be as annoying.
Okay.
But we'd have to see. We'd have to see. It would still be annoying to get hit by it.
Yeah. All right. Moving along. This is a deck that just never was, never will be. Just I don't know. People love it. It's an anime deck, but and we're talking about Gravekeepers here. There
Yeah.
was a version of it when the game first came out that was okay. It wasn't great. We got a version now. This seems like a very stripped down version, as you can see. Um, Not a lot of monsters. Just we want to get Necro Valley out. We want to get our Fusion Summon out.
Yeah, that's kind of the unfortunate thing about Gravekeeper's. The best card in that whole archetype is Necro Valley. Obviously there's unreleased cards that could make them good, and we'd have to see. And like you said, they were, when the game first came out, they were actually a very good meta deck. You could farm for them very.
Hmm.
It was one of those, you had to go to the gate and farm and farm and farm, and you'd
Right.
eventually have the deck, and it's a tier 1 deck, and it's amazing. But nowadays, Necro Valley is just better in other decks,
Right.
making Gravekeepers kind of irrelevant.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter that they can activate their effects when there are other decks like Blackwings that don't necessarily need their graveyard. They only have the Hawk Joe, and they don't really care. Or Goki, that literally
Right.
does not use their graveyard at all. They just kind of, the only thing they're doing is activating their effects from the graveyard, and that's it. They're not removing anything from the graveyard or doing anything like that. So they're just better users of it. Interesting with this deck that we have on screen right now is it's a balanced version. So he's playing Demise of the Land and Necro Valley. So he's always guaranteed a way to his Necro Valley, either drawing Necro Valley turn 1 and playing it, or setting Demise of the Land, and then as soon as opponent special summons a monster, bam, Necro Valley's on the board on your opponent's turn, no less. So that could be really annoying for your opponent. That being said, Blackwings does turn 1 Necro Valley way better than this deck does.
Which
Your
is
biggest
sad if
threats.
you think about it.
Yeah, which is pretty sad. Obviously you can use any back row. This guy used Void Trap Hole and Drowning Mirror Force. Both are very easy to play around. You could use anything, Fiendish Chains, whatever you want, realistically. This deck, other than playing Necro Valley, its win conditions is getting I forget what his name is, but he's a Gravekeeper that tributes a Gravekeeper, and then you get to pop a card,
Right.
which
Yeah.
is really strong. And then you get your Fusion. If your Fusion just combines the 2 attack of your Gravekeepers into one big beefy Gravekeeper. You can also fuse with the Fusions themselves to even get larger. And then once he's on the board, him and the field spell cannot be destroyed by card effects. So that's kind of the win condition when it comes to that. Still very susceptible to Floodgates, Canadias, Malay who flips, etc., etc.
Just seems slow and convoluted compared to most decks that are out right
Yeah,
now.
it's pretty crazy that, it's just the best cards, Necro Valley, and other decks use it better. And that's why Gravekeepers will not really go anywhere unless their effects are just so ridiculous, or, whatever the case may be. Even if we got like more searching potential for this deck, it's just kind of hard. Now I could see a meta where we got like more of the really good Gravekeeper cards, and then they go first, they set up, they're guaranteed Necro Valley, and then it's like, if they have Necro Valley and they just hard drew that one card that makes it so you can't special summon monsters except Gravekeeper monsters when Necro Valley's on the board. I could see the deck being good, but Konami would literally have to be like, all right, we are supporting Gravekeepers fully and not supporting any other deck for like half a year,
Right.
So that's kind of where we are with that.
The problem this deck has that other decks have that we see a lot is their card text is too small. Your card text has to be really big and
where the
real
paragraphs
tiny.
at, bro? What is this? 2 lines?
Yeah, you're not gonna win with that. Get out of here.
Yeah.
All right, the next deck. This is the only one, excuse me, that actually made it into a top 32. The rest of these washed out in Swiss. This one actually made it to a top 32 in the Dual World Weekly. So, and that is Degenerate Stall. So there you go.
Yeah. This is Stall incarnate. Literally, there's variants of
Stalburn,
this.
yep.
Yeah, so you might have seen this deck probably with Megaloroid City to search the Submarine Roid and the Kite Roid. You might have seen it with double invocation, 2 Alistair, 1 invocation. The point of this deck has been the timeless Lava Golem classic. Stall your opponent out, make them rip their hair out. Winda in defense. What are you gonna do? I'm gonna summon a whole bunch of ritual beasts that aren't even in my archetype. It's
Right.
just a mishmash of the most cancerous deck or cards and decks that you can play against. And on top of that, most of the cancerous back row, Fiendish Chain,
Yeah,
Floodgates, Wall of
Wallaby.
D. It's like, bro, come on. It's one of those it's one of those decks where it's like, if you're super patient, they're probably not gonna win. But then you get mad because you're getting stalled, and then you play stupid, and then they lava golem you, and then you're like, God damn it, I hate this
Right.
deck.
And he's playing Shadow Game on top of it. So
Yeah, on top of all that shadow game. Yeah. What else do you need?
I
Yeah, I
love
mean, these
degenerate
decks.
decks. I really do. I'm gonna try this one out. I'm not gonna lie. You just get to the point sometimes when you're playing on the ladder, and it's like, all right, that's it. Everybody's
Yeah.
burning now. Everybody's burning.
Well, and stall decks are they're like a necessary evil, right? Because like if stall decks force you to play the game correctly without making minor mistakes, against most decks, if you're like, "Ooh, that was kind of a slight misplay," but it's probably I'm not going to get punished for that. Where if you play incorrectly against stall, bam, lava golem on your face, bam, Winda summons the Peltafin that you can't out anymore.
Right.
Wall of D. Now my board is clogged, and my opponent can just pass until he wins because I have 3/0 attack monsters and I can't tribute.
Right.
So stall decks they really exploit your weaknesses, especially if you're a new player, and it can teach you how to play the game a little bit more proper. That being said, it's always sucks to face against them in this deck. I just want to throw up. So
Well, it's great if you do get rid of the lava golem. You get lava golem and you find a way to deal with it. Now it's in the graveyard. Now it's a target for invocation.
Yeah.
For his Purgatrio to come out. So I love that. That's great. Coming to the ladder near you. All right, now the last deck we're gonna do. This is a deck I used to play a lot. I actually played it in the Team Wars Winter League. We had a DLE team last year, and I played this one. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I got to play against Dark Lords at the time, and I split my set with I can't remember who we played against, but it was a lot of fun. And that's Triamids. This is a deck I think people are, they're always in the corner of. It's that the underdog deck that can do pretty well.
Yeah, so Triamids is interesting. Of course, the typical balance Triamid build. You want to open up a field spell, monster, and ideally some sort of trap. I believe Wayne played this in Swiss in battle phase Monday or Wednesday. I want to say. I think it was Wednesday actually. Okay. The biggest issue with the deck is the monsters take so long to actually beef up now. Yeah. And they can't like their whole strategy is to beat over other monsters. It's not like other decks, for example. One that hits home, Noble Knights. One thing they do is if they're too small, they can equip Gwynnifer, and it doesn't matter. She's just effect destruction. So they play around being small bodies. Trimids don't really do that. Trimids, they're going to try and get themselves big because the only other thing they have is the Trimid Pulse to try and kill you with. Right. So when you got something like Casitas, it gets a little hard, Right. And then, of course, the King Golem back in the day was so good because of, the effect negation. But now there's so many effects that happen in the main phase, the standby phase, a lot of good trap and back row cards that'll stop that from happening. That the deck kind of struggles to get to that point where they can use their King Golem. And even if they do, if their monsters are just too tiny to do anything, you're not really going to be able to do much with the game overall. So they have a lot of struggles. They could still. It's one of those things where if it's a good pilot, they can still get some decent results with them. But I think as of right now, Trimids are kind of waiting for their support. Preferably, their boss monster has more body, has some pretty cool effects that could really mix up the deck. I don't know if that's enough to make it relevant again, meta relevant, but it would definitely make it like a good rogue deck rather than a deck that's just kind of waiting for support until they get something.
Yeah, it was always a fun deck to play, but like you said, it's only got so many things it can do, and like you said, the King Golem only takes place during an attack, not just the battle phase, but an attack has to be declared. And the pulse, you got to get stuff into the grave, which isn't so hard. But if you get negated or you get disrupted, you know your pulse isn't active, and it's just too
Yeah.
bad because yeah, this deck has just been power crept, and
Yeah, it's
Konami
one of those
just
decks. It's just one of those decks where the strategy that you have to go into to win is just no longer viable. They have
right,
to they are missing key cards to bring them into the new era of dueling. So just like a lot of decks are for the most part. You know, if you go up against an older deck with this deck, you'll probably do amazing. But if you go against anything more recent, you know, they're going to be synchro summoning, comboing, back rowing all over you, and then you're going to be like, well, I summoned one and pass. Like, that's just
right,
not
yeah.
enough.
And that's the problem. Like, there's so many decks that just need a little bit of support, and Konami's just like, nope, here's Melodious. You're like, really?
Yeah.
Come on
Well,
now.
it's just weird because it's like they
Yeah.
could easily, and I guess this goes for all rogue decks. Obviously, with the most recent boxes coming out, we're getting a lot of, you know, not so great cards. I think Witchcraft is like the only good archetype to come out. Everything else has
Right.
been really doo-doo. You know, Megaliths, Math Mechs, all this stuff that's just
Gokis.
super irrelevant. But yeah, it's just not good. You know, they're just not
Right.
good. So it's like, why not just throw in the Triamid Boss Monster Sphinx in there as a UR? Why not just toss it in there?
Right. Just see what
Like it's
happens.
probably not even it's probably not even gonna affect anything. Why not just bam? It's in there.
Right.
It's a mini box UR. Go get it, boys.
Yeah.
What are they waiting for XCs to come out so all the decks are useless? I don't know.
Yeah, it's just too bad because I think people get attached to an archetype, but they're just like drooling for support, and it just doesn't happen. It's
Yeah,
unfortunate.
that's me in a nutshell, dude.
That yeah, one day Noble Knights, you just got to play them in a tournament this week, and then we'll have them on Rogue decks next week.
We could talk about them.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get Wayne on here, dude. One day.
All right, guys, we're gonna get out of here. I hope you liked this series again this week in Rogue decks, and if you did, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and follow us on Twitch, Twitter, and Discord. Make sure to get in the Discord because then you can be part of all of our tournaments. You'll get notified when they happen. They're always free to enter. And make sure to check out Gamersupps. You can use the description in the comments below, and you can get 10% off. So enjoy. I'm Circus.
Bye, YouTube.
That's right. We'll see you next time.